Hi there. Welcome to the Profit by Design podcast. Today, I am joined by Kaitlyn Beaver, who is our success concierge at Tap the Potential. And she also has a strong background in workforce development. And the topic we are going to dive into are the current workforce trends that small business owners need to be aware of to hire A players for your teams. I'm your host, Dr. Sabrina Starling. I'm the author of the How to Hire the Best series. I'm passionate about helping small business owners hire A players. Kaitlyn on our team is so excited and exuberant to join me in teaching the How to Hire the Best course. And she's bringing her background in workforce development and the awareness of current trends into the course. So we thought it would be really fun to have her on the podcast here to talk about these trends and what she's seen. Kaitlyn has such a unique background because not only does she have a workforce development background, she also has a very strong marketing background. And I think that is key to knowing how to attract A players in your business, is really thinking about your recruiting from that marketing perspective and combining that with the knowledge of what A players are looking for and then what the workforce trends are. So we're bringing it all together here for you today on the podcast. So Kaitlyn, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I have been a fangirl of the podcast for years now. So it is just so incredible to be here with you and also just to share some of our insights with the listeners.
Absolutely. So let's bring our listeners up to speed. Share a little bit about your background in workforce development.
So I have been in the workforce development industry for 3 years now. In a very short time, I transitioned from being a career navigator, where I was helping people with a background find rewarding career opportunities, to our local organization's first digital media producer, AKA marketing expert. And this experience has been so transformative for me. I've always had a servant heart and interest in helping others, but it really showed me the impact our careers have on our lives. It's an integral part of who we are. And for some, it can be life-changing to find a rewarding opportunity. So what I learned through my experience with workforce development is, these job opportunities and these career pathways not only impact the individual, but it also impacts the families that they have at home, the companies that they're working for to help them grow and succeed, and ultimately the communities that they live in.
Yeah, that is so true. And we really believe in that at Tap the Potential. And we've seen it because when our small business owners are hiring A players in their businesses, they're giving opportunities to those A players that did not previously exist. And it changes the A player's life, it changes their family's life, and it has this effect in the community, a very positive effect in the community. And so we get the joy at Tap the Potential of watching small business owners grow their businesses because we help them remove one of the biggest roadblocks to growth, which is hiring A players. And so I think we should just dive right into that right now. And I want to say at the beginning that we're going to make this a 2-part series because we have so much to share with you around understanding the workforce trends when it comes to hiring A players and the gaps that exist and how we at Tap the Potential help our business owners bridge those gaps to become an employer of choice for the A players they want to attract. And we have the How to Hire the Best course coming up. And I think one of the things that really excites me about this next round of the How to Hire the Best course is that we are right on top of workforce trends and what we're teaching, and we're continually updating the course to reflect that. So you're getting the latest and greatest, and we'll talk more about the course in a little bit. But let's just start off by, I want to clarify, Kaitlyn, for everyone, what an A player is, because I think sometimes people think of A players as like hardcore, competitive, cutthroat team members. That is not an A player. A players can be very hardcore with respect to wanting to be the best themselves and wanting to learn and grow. But the true definition of an A player is someone who's a team player, somebody who is a real go-getter and is always looking for how they can contribute to better the team and the team's goals. They're going to be your top performers. They're going to be the ones who are great communicators. They keep the team informed of what they're doing, so they're not hunkered down in their silo trying to outperform everybody else. That's not an A player. An A player is that collaborative team member who's communicative and who also wants to see other team members succeed and set them up for success. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about A players. So, Kaitlyn, what are some of the things that A players are looking for in the workforce currently?
I mean, they're looking for growth opportunities. A players have this motivation to really, like you said, support their team, and they have this greater mission at play, and they really want to find purpose in the work that they're doing. And to that end, they want to know what their career pathway is. They want to know what their growth opportunity can look like within your company to really help it grow. And they want to innovate. They want to try new things. Something that's so interesting about A players is that we're okay with failing. We're okay with failing as long as we fail forward and we have the safety net of our team to really cheer us on and say, gosh, well, what did we learn from that failure? Or what did we learn to push us forward? And those are just a few of the things that can really, I think, set an A player's experience apart. And outside of that, I think it's really having touch points with our leaders. We want to check in with you. We want to not just hear the constructive feedback, but we really want to be able to hear about your vision for the company. We want to know where we're growing together. And I think that those opportunities to work with our leadership or with other team members and check in with them is a great chance to be able to do that.
Yeah, in that How to Hire the Best course, we teach that you want to have regular one-to-ones with your team members. And I always qualify that. And I say, you don't need to do one-to-ones with all of your team members. You really need to be doing them with your A players, though, very intentionally. Because, so here's something else I've learned is that if we teach business owners in the How to Hire the Best course how to hire these A players and they bring them on their team and then they don't have regular meetings with them, those A players run amok really quickly because they have all this energy. and if you're not guiding them and giving them a clear direction and a vision, and here's our goals and here's your strengths and here's where they align, those A players, they need to use their energy and they need to grow and learn, and they will go and do it, but it won't necessarily be in alignment with the company's vision. And that can be a source where a lot of frustration gets created unnecessarily. So the best way to manage all of that is to be very intentional that you have ongoing weekly or every other week meetings with your A players, going over their expectations and what specifically their role is. This is something that I see a lot of confusion around for team members because A players are really good at a lot of things. And when they come into a business, that small business owner says, oh my gosh, I can use you here and I can use you there and over there. And before you know it, the A player is so scattered, they don't know what's expected of them. And so we need to be able to, get clarity for ourselves. And this is what we teach in the How to Hire the Best course, is how to have that clarity. But when we're meeting every week with our A players, we're learning about what their goals are and what matters to them. And that's where that mentorship really becomes so valuable that I think A players are very much seeking right now. Kaitlyn, what's your experience with that?
I think you touched on a couple of things that are so important. And I think for small business owners and leaders, it's really important for you to understand the impact of those one-to-ones for you as well. And I think when you really understand what growth opportunities they have professionally and personally, you're able to better align their career trajectory and your eyes might open. You might say, whoa, I didn't know you had that goal. I didn't know that you wanted to work towards this, or that something really energized you outside of the scope of your work. So I think it really gives that opportunity for the business owner or the leader to say, wow, I have a team member who might be interested in other things in other areas that can really help grow the business. And personally, in my experience with Tap the Potential, we have this 8-player development plan. And in the 8-player development plan, I'm focused very specifically on my professional goals for Tap the Potential, but also my personal goals. And I'm putting in there all of these different dreams that I have for myself in different areas of my life that I really want to be able to focus on. And I'm realizing and recognizing that there are people on our team who can help me do that.
Yeah.
And so now I have this more investment in your vision and where you're trying to take Tap the Potential. And I think that that's what your A players are going to find. When you work with them on their own development, there becomes this trust and this relationship that you're building. And it's an opportunity for you to see them and recognize them. But also on the flip side, you get to see there might be some other areas of growth in your business that you may not have seen before, and you really get to support them and just to continue to build that relationship with which goes such a long way.
Yeah, when I think about that, it's so true that when A players come in, they have a fresh perspective on the business. And especially as we, the business owners, educate our A players about the sweet spot of the business and the vision and what we're trying to accomplish, it can be such a breath of fresh air to hear from the A players on the team, here's some ideas about how to go about doing that. And it doesn't have to be as complicated maybe as you were making it, or here's a shorter path to get there, or a more impactful path to get there. And that just aligns with what we're seeing in the workforce with respect to the growth opportunities that A players are looking for. So how cool is it for an A player to come into the business and to know the sweet spot? And then because they know the sweet spot of the business, they identify their own growth opportunities because they understand who the top clients are and how the business is trying to serve them. And just to give some data to back this up, and a recent LinkedIn survey found that 87% of millennials rate professional growth and development opportunities as important to them in a job. So this is really key. And Gallup has found that employees who feel they have opportunities to learn and grow are going to be much more engaged and less likely to leave their jobs. Glassdoor found that 76% of employees said they would be more likely to stay with a current employer if they see opportunities for growth. And a study by Randstad found that 91% of employees view training and development as important to their career. So we cannot emphasize enough how it's not just about getting out there and hiring those A players. You really need to be thoughtful about how you're going to retain them. And one of the reasons that I started working on A player development plans to share with business owners is because I saw business owners hiring A players because they're using what I teach in the How to Hire the Best course to get out there and get those A players, but then they may lose those A players in a year or two. And that's a significant investment that's been made in bringing them on the team. But then if they leave, then you're starting all over again to hire and replace them, which is small businesses just cannot afford those kinds of turnover costs that are involved there. And so what I really became aware of is not only do I need to be helping you, like in the How to Hire the Best course, how to hire those A players, but I also need to be giving you tools to help retain them, because A players move from one opportunity to the next. That's a key piece to know about their psychology. And that's how we teach you to attract them in the How to Hire the Best course, is to position yourself as the next best opportunity for those A players. But you need to know, once they're on your team, that's exactly how you might lose them if you don't invest in developing them. And Kaitlyn, in my research with entrepreneurs, what I'm finding is that 9 out of 10 entrepreneurs are putting no emphasis on A player development, team development, and retention of A players. So this, to me, seems like it's a huge gap. And in terms of what we do at Tap the Potential in helping business owners take their lives back from their business, I think if we can get better and better at helping entrepreneurs retain their A players that they've gotten, it positions them to be profitable and it positions them to grow with a lot of ease versus that revolving door of A players in their business.
I totally agree.
So let's talk a little bit about what you said about failing forward and failing faster, and what that means for A players, because I think there's some interesting psychology there. Some A players tend to be very interested in doing things right and doing things well. And so, but they also are much more willing to try things out.
Mhm.
So, what, how do we strike that balance in a company to support our A players? What are your thoughts on that?
That's such a good question. And I think it's all about taking that mindset of being a learner. I think that
Mm,
failing is just teaching you how to learn, because you may innovate and you may try new things. And 5 out of 10 of those things may not work, but you're learning how to then streamline your systems, your people, the way that you're serving customers better. And I think that if we don't really focus on failing forward and finding ways to continue to learn, then we won't be open to these new perspectives and being able to evolve with all of the changes that we're seeing, not just in our topics today about workforce development, but really about anything. So I
mm.
think that if you can teach your A players, if you can reframe in their mind that you're just there to learn and you're there to grow together and catch each other, I think that you're going to really open your mind to all different kinds of possibilities in your business.
I think that's a really great way to handle that. And the other thing that I'm aware of as you're describing that is that so many of our team members come to us in business having had bad experiences with previous employers who, when they made a mistake, the supervisor or the boss came down on them. And so they may be, as good as they are, they may be very hesitant to take the lead initially and go out there and do things on their own. They may continually come back to you looking for guidance, but the more you reassure and say, no, no, you go try it. And if it doesn't work, then we'll figure it out together. And we'll come back and we'll look at which piece worked and what didn't work and what did we learn from this and how can we make it better going into the future. So let's talk now about what are some of the trends in workforce development that small business owners should be aware of. So, what are the trends, Kaitlyn?
So, just some that come to mind is, of course, something that we've been talking about a lot amidst the pandemic is remote work and being able to offer more flexible options for people. And although we understand that not every small business owner can offer those opportunities, there's lots of ways to create more flexible work arrangements for the people that are working for you. And we talk a lot about burnout now. We talk a lot about our mental well-being, and so it's so important to show people how much you care because they are full humans coming to work. And so it's so important that you are showing them through your practices and your interactions, your engagements with them, that really recognize the way that they're showing up and you're cheering them on to make sure that they have what they need to be successful in their positions. We're also seeing focuses on skill development. I mean, there are so many different things that are evolving in the workplace, and we're learning that you need lifelong learners because every market is always changing. So you have to be able to develop, really hone in on skills that your A players are interested in and be able to help them, really navigate what that looks like for your company.
Yeah, just a prime example of that I think most of us can relate to recently is Chat GPT. That has just come on the scene in the last month or two in a big way. And we're seeing so many ways that it can make jobs easier. And that's a skill to be developed for your A players and to learn how to use it effectively as a tool in the business to make workflow easier. But when I think about skill development, there's a study by PwC that says 79% of CEOs are concerned about the availability of key skills needed. And I hear this a lot from small business owners that it is so hard to hire people with the skills that are needed for a particular role. And so what I've found works best for small business owners is to really build a accountability or a role chart where you're filling the frontline positions from the outside, and then you're actively working to move your team members up and develop their skills. So if you can hire A players at entry level and bring them in, and you have a solid training plan in place to move them up through the company, number one, you're going to retain A players. It also allows you to hire in a way that allows the business to stay profitable. So if you're hiring entry level and then you're providing clear training and expectations, you can move them up and you can pay as they improve their skill set. And all of this can be tracked on an A player development plan. And so the team member knows a trajectory and knows what's expected and what they can expect. And this allows you to not have to be so focused on hiring for skills, because it's just going to become harder and harder to do that as we go. Kaitlyn, what else are you aware of? You mentioned flexible work arrangements, and I know in office jobs, sometimes that's much easier to make those flexible. And I know we have a lot of people in the trades who listen, and in construction, and they have people out in the field, and they're probably thinking, I wonder how we can create flexibility in that way. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I do. Some of the most in-demand industries are those that may find it challenging to be able to offer remote work options, but there's all different kinds of alternatives. One that comes to mind is looking at your shifts that you're offering. So if you are in construction and you know that there are opportunities for people to work very specific times and days of the week and in rotation, I think that even something like that could be so helpful, because that's an opportunity for people to be able to show up at their best when they're at the job, and also show up for their families at home and really have more structure around what that could look like.
Yeah. And I think the place that you start with that is by having conversations with your team members from the perspective of, if you could create your ideal schedule, we need you a certain number of hours per week, but if you could create your ideal schedule, what would it be? And you're not creating an expectation that you're going to honor that ideal schedule. It may not be possible to do it for everyone, but it'll give you a sense of what's in your team members' minds and what they really want. And I think just those conversations with your A players around, if we're going to create a really good environment for you here, we're going to create a great place to work for you, what's involved, what's included. And that includes, what's your ideal schedule? If you could wave a magic wand and you were working a certain number of hours, when would you have those hours be? And then you can involve them even in saying, okay, Joe said he wants to work these hours. Jim said he wants to work these hours. John wants to work these hours. Help me figure out, how do we make this work and still get things done in a timely fashion so we meet our deadlines? You can involve, when you have A players, you can involve them in figuring it out. And then they have ownership and buy-in into the schedule that's being created. The other thing that I find is business owners have a really unique opportunity to position themselves as different in their client and customer minds when they talk about being an employer of choice for A players, and how they are setting their business up to be a mentally healthy work environment and paying attention to the needs of the team members so that they can thrive. Clients and customers get excited about that. They want to support a business that is taking care of team members. So that can even become a part of your unique employer branding. And we have clients at Tap the Potential who do that. We do it at Tap the Potential. We believe work supports life, not the other way around. Our clients know that. Our clients come to us because they want to be able to build a business like that. And so, one of the things that we teach in the How to Hire the Best course is that like attracts like. When we identify our core values and our immutable laws, and we incorporate those in our employer branding and our overall branding, we will attract more people who hold those similar values. And that's just a big part of what makes doing business easier. So let's shift here a bit and talk now about, what are the gaps? And boy, there are some critical gaps to being filled, especially when we're paying attention to the workforce trends. So Kaitlyn, what are the gaps?
Well, we're seeing a few. I would say first is, that growing concern about skills gaps in the
Mm-hmm.
workforce, with so many companies struggling to find employees with the right skills for their open positions. And, according to a study by SHRM, 83% of HR professionals reported having difficulty recruiting suitable candidates in the past year.
Wow. That's, and that's what I hear from small business owners is it's really hard to find the right people. And what I teach in the How to Hire the Best course, I really find this to be the best approach. We see it working over and over and over, and that is to take the focus off of hiring for skills and really focus on number one, identifying what your immutable laws are. And then number two, identifying what the expected results are in that role. And so once you are really clear on, if the team member can only get one thing done for you in a given day or a given week, what is the most important thing they're going to be doing for you? Once you get clear on what that is, and then the next step is to identify the personality strengths needed to deliver that result exceptionally well day in and day out. So you're hiring now not for skills, you're hiring for immutable laws and personality strengths. And that assumes that you're going to be focusing on hiring entry-level people primarily and moving them up as much as possible. Now, I know in rapidly growing small businesses, that's not always possible. You have to hire at the higher levels and you have to bring people in. But always, if you can look at what training can I provide to bridge the skill gap, as long as I'm hiring the person who has the personality strengths and the motivation and those immutable laws, if you know how to bridge those skill gaps, you're going to be positioned so much further than the majority of businesses that are out there that are hiring. It's just going to help you move along faster. Kaitlyn, I know another topic that we hear a lot about are generational gaps. So share some perspective on that.
Well, we have so many different generations in the workforce now. So there can be gaps in our communication styles and our work expectations, and even our attitudes towards work. And a study by Pew Research Center found that baby boomers, Generation X, and millennials all have different work values and priorities. And what we're seeing with some of the younger generations, the future of our workforce, is that we do want that work that supports our lives and the lifestyles that we have. And we want to be a gift from our gifts. We want to be able to, utilize our strengths to be able to impact you, your bottom line, and grow your business.
Yeah. And you know what? It's just mind boggling to me when I think about all the different generations that are currently in the workforce, the communication breakdowns that happen, the expectation breakdowns that happen. And one of the tools there's a couple of tools that we use at Tap the Potential that I think are really effective in helping bridge this gap. One of those tools is the people map assessment, where we're assessing personality strengths and Achilles heels, but this also gets at communication style. And when we can understand, no matter what generation we're dealing with, when we can understand how someone likes to communicate and how they see the world, then we can communicate to them in their language, their preferred style of communication and how they see the world. And so personality assessments like the people map, Clifton Strengths, these all help us to have greater understanding of who our team members are, regardless of generation. But then another tool that we use is we call it a user manual. And this is just a one sheet that really breaks down each person, and each team member is asked, what are the preferred times that you like to work? How do you like to receive feedback? What are some of your priorities? What are the things that are important to you? How do you spend your time away from work? What do you like to do for fun? And we share this across our teams so that everybody can have an understanding of who their fellow team members are. This is really important in a virtual work environment because we're not in the same office every day. And so we're missing some of that casual conversation that would just happen around the water cooler. But it's also very helpful in work environments where you do see each other every single day, and especially when you have multiple generations. And I cannot emphasize enough how important it is as a business owner to understand the priorities for your team members. And because each one is going to have different priorities, each one is going to have something different that motivates them and keeps them showing up every day and bringing their best. And it's your job to know what that is and to tie in how you're developing them based on what their values are, what their motivators are, and what their priorities are. And so that's another area where having that solid A player development plan where you're tracking all of that. Because we don't have that many team members that Tap the Potential. We're under 10 team members, and I can't keep it all straight in my head. And so for businesses that have 20 or 50 team members, having a tool that is specific for each A player that tracks all of this, that the leaders have access to, is so valuable and important. And so in the How to Hire the Best course, we will be sharing this A player development plan. This is something brand new that we're bringing in, but it's going to be one of those tools that I think becomes critical to bridging these generational gaps, Kaitlyn, that we're seeing in the workforce. I know another big gap is engagement. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, employee engagement has been a hot topic for quite some time. We've seen it, especially amidst the pandemic. We're calling it different things, quiet quitting, quiet firing, things like that. And it's just a critical factor in really attracting and retaining top talent. But so many companies are struggling with really being able to engage their employees. And according to a study by Gallup, only 36% of employees in the US are engaged in their work. And that's just astounding.
Yeah. And, when I stop and think about what that really means for a small business, because when you are a lean and mighty team and you have under 10 employees and they're only giving you a third of what they're capable of doing. Like, we just cannot afford to have these disengaged employees on our team. So that's why I love teaching business owners how you hire those A players and you put them in roles that play to their strengths so that they can be engaged. And another gap that I think is really interesting is the leadership gap in teaching effective leadership skills. And having good leaders in the company. So once you're the business owner and you start hiring A players, you're quickly going to see that you need others to lead those A players. Once you're beyond 3 people on the team, you're going to need some help with leadership. And it really becomes necessary to look at how do we develop leadership in our A players. They may come in with this passion and this enthusiasm, but if we're not putting attention to how do we teach them good communication skills, how do we teach them to coach and engage others, we're not going to have good leadership. And all the research shows that team members leave supervisors and managers. They don't leave the business. They leave because of the person that they're reporting to is not a good leader or not exhibiting good communication. And so at Tap the Potential, we offer courses. We have an entire leadership development track. If you go to our homepage, you can find our hiring and leadership development tab and see everything that we offer. 2 of the key courses are Leadership Bootcamp and Coach Approach. And Leadership Bootcamp is just a 6-week course where we bring in your A players and we rapidly teach them how to think like a business owner and pay attention to what you, the business owner, is paying attention to in the business so that they can support you in leading the company. And then the Coach Approach course is where we teach coaching skills and how to have coaching conversations. And I think that, especially for managers who are new, is such an important skill to develop, because it's very easy for an A player who gets promoted into a management role. If that A player hasn't had leadership development, they will either hold on to a lot of responsibilities and not delegate well and become micromanagers when they do delegate, or that's the most common pattern. The other pattern is where they just delegate by tossing and they don't give good direction and check in. And so we really find that teaching the Coach Approach and what we teach in Leadership Bootcamp with regular communication and check-in and clarifying expectations, those blend so nicely to support emerging leaders in a company in developing the skills they need to help you retain your A players.
And your A players want it. Your A players want these opportunities. They want to know how to grow. And so being able to really focus on going from management skills to really honing in on your leadership skills and understanding the visionaries and the direction of the business, it's what they want to hear from you.
Yeah. And everything that we've been talking about to this point really leads us right up to, why is A player development important? So, Kaitlyn, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I do have some personal thoughts on it. I think that A player development on, a level for me and just in my experiences, that it's really been able to help me shine in a way that I don't think I have ever been able to, even in my personal life. And I think that for our small business owners, it's really going to help improve productivity and profitability. Because, like you said, when you're focused on A player development and you're really understanding their core values, their goals in and out of work, and you're able to align the two and show them your vision and champion them, you're able to see some increased productivity on their end because they're energized, they're excited, they want to bring you high quality work. And on the flip side, they want to be able to figure out how to support your vision and increase profitability in the business.
Yeah, when I started teaching how to hire the best years ago, a lot of the business owners that I encountered had teams that were full of warm bodies. And they would tell me they were keeping them on because they struggled so much to hire and get anyone to show up for work. And what was amazing to me is, as I helped them to develop their ability to hire A players, and they would replace their warm body team members with A players, they would come back a few months later and they would say, I cannot believe the night and day difference with having an A player on the team versus that warm body. And so we started really tracking what was the impact. And it really seems to me that an A player is going to be 900 to 1200% more productive than a warm body team member. And there's actually some research that backs this up. According to the Harvard Business Review, top performers can be up to 400% more productive than the average performer. So my experience is that A players are 900 to 1200% more productive than warm bodies. Harvard is saying, you know what, they're 400% more productive than the average employee. So warm bodies are not average employees. That's a step down than the average employee. And so that really tracks very closely with what we're seeing in small business. And so to have the potential, we teach these business owners that you don't need as many team members as you think you need, because when you know how to hire A players, they can get more done. They're more productive. And that's really important because payroll is the biggest expense in a small business. And when we can make your payroll smaller, a smaller expense. And what's really fun about this is the awareness that you can shrink your payroll and pay your A players better because you have fewer people on the payroll. And that allows you to retain your A players. So you're bringing them in. I always recommend that you look at paying at least 50 in the 50th percentile. Try to be at around the 65th percentile of wages or salary. That's a really good place to start. But that leaves you a lot of room to be able to move your A players up over time and get them into the 90th percentile. But all of that hinges on them performing, and they're going to perform if you give them clear expectations and then move them up. And it creates an opportunity for you to have a highly efficient team, a highly efficient payroll, which all translates to profitability in the business. And so another key piece, just tying this all back to A player development and why it's so important. Let's talk, Kaitlyn, about better decision-making and innovation and what that means for A players.
Well, as you said before, I mean, A players often bring unique perspectives and ideas to the table. They're seeing your company through a fresh look sometimes. I know that for us at Tap the Potential, that happened. I mean, we were focusing on sales and marketing and being able to innovate in that way. I'm able to bring so many ideas that are new that we get to try. And I'm so excited for that. That energizes me. And of course, that energizes your A players. And where it really drives that decision making or that innovation I think back to what you were explaining about really understanding your vision. When you're developing your A players and they understand, well, how is the business owner making decisions? Or how is my leader making decisions? They can start changing and improving the way that they make decisions for your business or for your people. And I think that tied together, you really start to see diversity in your teams and with
Mhm.
your leadership. And that means that you'll continue to innovate and you'll be more financially successful.
Yeah, and that just also ties into the discussion around the different generations in the workforce, because it's ideal to have different generations represented on your team who are A players, because they will have these different perspectives that really drive innovation. And innovation, we believe it's so important at Tap the Potential. It's included in our Tap the Potential solution. It's step number 3. And it follows after you identify the sweet spot in the business. So the sweet spot are your top clients, and you're always looking at what is it that you do for your top clients that they find so unique and valuable. And then you want to have your entire team innovating around that. And one of the things that's interesting about innovation is we often think we have to come up with these out of the, huge ideas like Elon Musk, and something that's just totally out of the blue, creative, and out of just super, super innovative. That's
Mhm.
not how most typical innovation happens. All the research shows that innovation comes from micro innovation, the accumulation of these micro improvements, and how they come together and make a business very unique over time in the eyes of top clients. And so that's where A players can be so valuable, and why you want to be listening to the input from your A players, because they will say, well, what if we do this, or let's try that and let's see. And those are all those micro innovations. And then you bring that learner mentality in, and you say, well, did this work? Did this not work? And Kaitlyn, one of the really fun examples recently that we've experienced on the Tap the Potential team is, as we did VIP days with our top clients, and we've also done a retreat. Carson on our team has an acting background, and he's teaching improv to our clients. And that, whenever we get our reviews back, that has been commented on repeatedly, is how valuable the improv experience was as part of just developing themselves as leaders through the training that we did. And that is something new and innovative. We've never done that at Tap the Potential. We never had somebody on the team with that background who could bring that in. And that's a micro innovation. Every one of us comes to work with a unique background, a unique perspective. So when we take the time as leaders to learn about our team members and do this A player development, we will see opportunities that we can plug in people's strengths and their unique experiences to help us innovate and support our sweet spot and our top clients. So, and that just ties back into the competitive advantage. That ongoing innovation is how a small business will continue to be perceived as unique in the eyes of its top clients. So many small business owners are out there feeling like they're struggling with price competition, and that they have to be the lowest price to get the business that they need. And you cannot be the lowest price and be profitable. That is a losing game. And so it's really important as a small business owner to know what your sweet spot is, to discover that, and then look for those ways to continually innovate around that, because that allows you to become the person that your top clients go to for this thing that you do so well in their eyes. And they really see you as the expert in that area. And at that point, you have this significant competitive advantage. And I want you to know, as a business owner, when you have A players on your team, it's no longer dependent on you to figure out how to maintain that competitive advantage. All the A players come together and really support that through the micro innovations that they're bringing to the team. So I think, now we need to talk, Kaitlyn, about, okay, we've got all these trends going on in the workforce. A players are very different than your typical team member. And small business owners, the way to win, the only way to win and get A players on your team, is to be an employer of choice for those A players. And when people come into our How to Hire the Best course, this is the mission that I assign. I say right off the get-go, your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to become an employer of choice for the A players you want on your team. That means paying attention to you, the business, and seeing it from the eyes of the A players on your team. And what does the culture look like, and what's going on in this business that would make an A player want to be there? So, Kaitlyn, from the workforce perspective, what are you seeing that A players are looking for?
They want to know about your company culture and your values. They want to know why buy into your brand, your mission, your company. So showcasing what your culture is like and what your values are can be so attractive to your A players, and in particular, the next generation of our workforce. Because when you leverage your website and you leverage social media channels and you're putting things in your recruitment materials, like your job description, you're basically able to share what it's like to work for you, what it's like to invest in putting your faith and your time and your resources into working with you. And that's something A players want to see and they want to understand and buy into.
Yeah. And, if you go to any company website, especially larger corporations, you can find their mission and their values, and they sound very corporate speak. They don't sound real and authentic. And in the How to Hire the Best course, we teach you how to identify your authentic immutable laws and put them in everyday language. And so that when your team members are working in the business, they experience those immutable laws as very real. They can remember them easily instead of saying, oh, let me go look at the website so I can remember what our values are. That's not how this works. And so that, I think that creates a significant competitive advantage for small businesses. And, the other thing is I find it very valuable to have A players on video on your careers page talking about how they experience working in your company, because they will, so like attracts like. So if you feature your A players, other A players will see them and be like, oh, I want to be like them. I want that kind of experience. And so when your A players are talking about your culture, that's where you're really going to position yourself to attract more A players like them. What about, this is a hot button for a lot of small business owners, offering competitive compensation and benefits. What are your thoughts on that, Kaitlyn?
I mean, it can be challenging, I understand, but there are so many different ways that you can offer value to your A players. And everyone has something different. To your point of what an ideal schedule looks like, what is a great place to work for look like. But flexible scheduling is a great place to start. And there's also fun, unique benefits like wellness programs and even pet-friendly offices, which would be really fun. But
Yes.
just find that way that really speaks to your A player audience. What are the things that are so unique that could help you really stand out? Because it may not always be that salary. It really may just be the company culture and the ways that you're offering value so that people are energized and excited to come to work.
Yeah. And, we survey the A players on our clients' teams. And yes, compensation and benefits does come up. But, as long as you're trying to stay in the 65th percentile as you're bringing people in, you're going to be competitive. You're not so low that you're out of the game in their eyes. And then if you have that really good culture, in my experience, hands down, that's going to help you attract A players to your team is your culture. But the other intangible perks, I would encourage you to talk to your A players and ask them what they value about working for you. You'll be really surprised to hear compensation and benefits don't come up very much. If they do come up, they're kind of like afterthoughts, like, of course I want to get paid. And if you want to give me a raise, that would be great. But here's what I really value. And so it's the experience that they're having day to day in the company, and respect that comes up over and over. I feel respected here. We're a family environment. We're looking out for each other. Those kinds of things, if you have that going on in your business, you want to put that front and center on your careers page. It needs to be in your job ads. It needs to be in your social media as you're advertising open positions. And even when you're not advertising open positions, you want to be putting social media out there that really emphasizes the culture of the company. Kaitlyn, with your background in digital media and workforce, what are some tips that you would give our business owners around how to really leverage social?
Well, I think no matter what social media or digital marketing medium you're on, there are so many ways to cast a wide net. And I think first and foremost, really thinking about your core values and your mission and being able to share that is a really great way to attracts like. And I think that when you're really showing people how you're showing up for your customers, what differentiates you from all of the other competing companies, that's really going to stand out, and that's going to build your brand in and of itself. And
Mhm.
by highlighting different employee stories and testimonies, not just on your career page, but do it on social media. Take
Yeah.
short videos of them giving their why. Why is this such a great place to be? What do you love about working here? I think that it really resonates when you can hear from another A player what that really looks like. Um, and I think ultimately, if you can understand the sweet spot in your business and you can understand what makes you so unique in the marketplace, that is going to shine through in your content. And A players are going to say, "Ooh, I can do that. I want to stand behind a business that are doing these things." And something that I love about the clients that we work with is that they have a servant heart. So they're out in the community doing these things and making an impact. And if they're pushing that out on social media, A players are going to go, "Wow, my impact goes far beyond our customer base and our
Mhm.
team. It's actually out in the community as well." And there are so many different ways to leverage this.
Yeah. Kaitlyn, you've brought so much good insight today and energy into this discussion around how, what we need to know about A players, what workforce trends are, how we need to position ourselves as employers of choice. And I want to acknowledge to the business owners listening to this, we know you're busy and you're hearing this and you're all fired up. You're like, yeah, I want to be that employer of choice. And then your next thought is, how am I going to find time for that? And like, where do I make time with all the other things that I'm juggling? And so what I want to share with you is that in the How to Hire the Best course, I have broken this up for you in small bite-sized bits so that over the course of 5 weeks, you can take one action step forward that builds on another, that builds on another. And before you know it, in 5 weeks' time, in the midst of your busy life and busy schedule, you have created your How to Hire the Best system in your business. You have that system for attracting A players. So the How to Hire the Best course is coming up again. The registration deadline is Friday, April 28th. So, but don't wait to the deadline to sign up. Go ahead and sign up now, commit to it. Say, you know what? I'm going to be that employer of choice. I want these A players on my team because I understand how they're going to impact my profitability. And so when you come into the How to Hire the Best course, we have video modules so you can watch the course material on your own time. They're short videos. You need to plan to spend about an hour to an hour and a half each week watching videos. And then each video ends with a move forward action step. And when you complete 90% of your move forward action steps, we will bring you in on the podcast and feature you in our Great Place to Work spotlight at Tap the Potential. So what we're confident in doing that because we're teaching you how to be an employer of choice as you go through the course. The action steps you're taking are setting you up to be that employer of choice, to be that great place to work. And then you get to come on the podcast and talk about what you're doing to be a great place for A players to work. Well, that gives you a video and it gives you an audio recording. You can put that out in your social. It can go on your careers page, and it's third-party verification that you are indeed a great place to work. We give you a logo that says that. And then not only that, but you also come away with a solid job ad that is written very specifically to attract A players. And what we find about these job ads is the way we teach you to write them in the How to Hire the Best course is we weed out a lot of people who would normally apply. You're not dealing with them. So there's fewer applications that you're looking through. You have fewer people to interview because I teach you how to write this job ad that specifically speaks to those A players. So you're not having people blanket resume and send you applications and they're not a good fit and you have to sort through all that. That all goes away. I teach you some inside tricks as to how to filter really fast with that job ad. And then even as you go through the interview process, I show you, what to ask in the interview, how to conduct the interview, the step-by-step. I give you resources for that and tools. So your confidence in your ability to hire is going to go through the roof. But the other really cool thing that we're doing with the How to Hire the Best course is we have live Q&A. Kaitlyn and I are going to be on the live Q&A with you. So you come once a week, you're listening to the course material, you're taking the action steps, and then you have us to ask all kinds of questions around hiring, retention, leadership development, A-player development plans. We're going to be there to support you and help guide you through that. So that's what's in the How to Hire the Best course. You can register at tapthepotential.com/course. We can't wait to see you in there and support you in hiring your A players. Kaitlyn, any final thoughts as we wrap up?
No, thank you so much for having me. It was incredible to share some of the great insights and latest trends in workforce. And I do hope that we will be seeing you at our next How to Hire the Best.
Absolutely. And head on over to tapthepotential.com/course, get signed up, and then we'll see you in the course.